Hey, Brandon here. Welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Got another 2024 rookie mock draft here for you on the channel. I'm going to be joined today by Ian Cummings from Pro Football Network. He is their lead NFL draft analyst. He recently put out a 7-round mock draft. I took that mock draft, reached out to Ian and said, hey, come join me and let's do a rookie mock based on your full 7-round mock draft. So we're going to get started on that here very shortly. What you're looking at right now is the draft board. So feel free to take a snapshot of this as we go through the draft so you can see landing spot and draft capital. A ton of really good landing spots on this board that you're looking at right now. If you play Dynasty, you play Fantasy, and you're looking for a YouTube channel out there that's going to give you an early look at the 2024 draft class and beyond, hit that subscribe button. I would very much appreciate it. Enjoy the mock. All right, Ian, welcome to my YouTube channel. Really appreciate you jumping on and doing this 3-round Dynasty rookie mock draft. We are using your mock draft. How many mock drafts do you do typically?
Man, I lose count down the stretch. I lose count. I try to do one every month, leading up to the draft season, and it's kind of fun. It's interesting. It's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
very tedious, but at the same time, you see how the board progresses over time, and how things are changing. So that's fun. You mix up different team prospect fits, and I think we had a good batch today. But we try to do one every month, me personally, and it's fun to kind of look at how it progresses.
Yeah, that's cool. So I reached out to Ian and said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you jump on the channel here with me? And I'm going to use your mock draft that you put down. It's a NFL regular season just ended this past weekend, so I think you put this out about a week ago, and it's still pretty relevant. At the least at the top of the draft board, where this mock draft I think is going to make a lot of sense. So let's get right into it, man. I got the first pick. Usually for the guests, I give the first pick, but I got a little selfish, I guess, this time around, and I'm going to take the first pick, and I'm going to go take Marvin Harrison Jr. going with the Bears. I say they sit with Fields. They do not. They could certainly trade down and get a haul, but at the same time, if they believe Fields is the guy, I think they stick to their guns and take Marvin Harrison Jr. Give him a weapon, and I also think that this is one of the safer picks in the draft. We've seen in the past where quarterbacks go out often and early. And, in a lot of cases, you go back 3 years in history, and a lot of them, kind of get faded off. So I'm going to limit my risk, take the best player in college football right now, take the high upside, and think, him and Moore on Chicago would make a great pairing for Fields moving forward.
With the number 2 pick in this class, in this draft, I picked Drake May, quarterback. He was picked by the Washington Commanders in this mock draft. I
Nice.
I seriously considered Jaden Daniels because of the rushing upside with the fantasy side. I think that was my draft side talking to me a little too much. Like,
Right.
maybe you want to go with the rushing upside, but Drake May, to me, he's my personal QB1. It's very
Great.
close for me in this class, but I'm a big fan of the combined physical talent and operational utility that he has. I think people underestimate his running ability at his size, around 6'4", 230. I do think he has very good speed in space, very good evasive ability in the pocket. But the arm talent for me, the drive velocity, the anticipation, this is a guy who I think can take on heavy passing volume right away and be a guy that you kind of build that offense around on day one. So I'm a big fan of the tools that are there. I think in Washington too, Josh Harris clearly taking the lead and kind of resetting this franchise the right way. And I think with the weapons they have in place, there's a good outcome where you get a lot of weaponry and you get a quarterback who can maximize that.
I love the pick. I really do. He's up there for me as well. I think it's a great call, and you bring up something really great about Drake May too. He can run the ball. He has some
Yeah.
physical. He's got some physicality to him. He's got some athleticism where he can move the chains with his legs. So I love that pick, and he does have at least a solid supporting cast in the wide receiver room to help him. So that leaves me with the third pick in the first round, and I'm going to take Jaden Daniels going to Atlanta. The more I watch Jaden Daniels, the more I really like what I see. He really improved this year. His deep ball passing accuracy has been outstanding.
Yes.
Showed a little bit more patience in the pocket this year. That's what the knock on him last year was, kind of evading, getting out of the pocket a little too early. He stood in there in LSU this year. He had just a fantastic season, won the Heisman. And the fact that he has going to a landing spot. They just fired the coach. A new coaching system is going to come in. He is just got the loaded weaponry around him with a fantastic running back. He's got a great tight end. He's got receivers. So he's going to be in a landing spot. And I'm a guy who believes situation and landing spots matter a little bit. So there's going to be a lot of people being here like, oh, you didn't take Williams here. I know they're neck and neck with me. There's little things about Williams that I have a little hesitation, and his landing spot is about as gross as one could get right now in this mock draft. But yeah, so I'm taking Daniels here with the third pick going to Atlanta. I think he, could really excel there given new coaching with all the weapons around him.
Yeah, that was kind of the big thing for me with this mock draft. I think the landing spot with the Falcons, there is opportunity there to really kind of right the ship and take advantage of the talent. Williams, I had the fourth overall pick. I picked Williams. We're doing a super flex draft, so Williams going to the New England Patriots in this mock draft.
Mm.
It's a tough situation, right? I do
Yeah,
think there is an aspect of simply opportunity being a benefit to a prospect, and he's definitely going to have the opportunity to be the franchise QB there. But there's a lot of fine tuning that supporting cast needs. You got Pop Douglas, who really showed out well for a day 3 pick at wide receiver. But aside from that, not much proven utility. I think both of their tackles are free agents too. So the offensive line is going to have some turnover.
yeah,
It's going to be a runway for that team to really provide the optimal support for Williams. That said, I do think he has the creation capacity, the arm talent, the competitive toughness to withstand adversity early on in his career. There's going to be a little bit of a runway while he kind of tones down that volatility in his game. His creation ability can be a double-edged sword at times,
right.
but I'm comfortable investing with that with a super flex spot because he's going to get that opportunity right away.
Yeah, super flex. It's hard to pass that up. And like you said, opportunity and well, they may have a whole new coaching tree too
Yeah.
come next year. So I like that pick. I would imagine that he would be coming off number 4 there. The fifth pick in the first round. I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. He's my wide receiver 2 in the class, as with most people going to the Cardinals, which I think is a really good landing spot. It looks like they're going to continue with Murray down there. That's a team that is, really starting from the basement, rebuilding that team. And he talk about an opportunity. Neighbors is going to be has the opportunity to come in there and clearly be the wide receiver 1 on that team. I think Gannon down there running the ship now, former Eagles defensive coordinator, I think is doing an admirable job as a first year head coach down there. But Malik Neighbors in Dynasty for me in fantasy, this running back class is I'm not ready to go anywhere near taking a running back in the first round here. I think wide receivers are going to go off the board often and early after the quarterbacks go off in this draft in rookie drafts in 2024. Malik Neighbors here I'm taking with the 105 going to the Cardinals.
Neighbors is my wide receiver too, as well. I'm a big fan of what he has to offer. I mean, the
Yeah.
production, just at all 3 levels, is
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, so he's a fun player. Number 6 overall in this draft, he went to the Giants in this mock draft. I went with Rome Odunze. Uh, the Giants offense, right? There's obviously a little bit of hesitation up front investing in that because of all the capital they put into Daniel Jones, and they don't appear to be steering away from him yet. Do I think they should stick with him? No, but it's a tough situation, right? So with any QB uncertainty like that, there's going to be a little bit of hesitation. That said, there isn't a lot stopping Odunze from being the wide receiver 1 right out of the gate and getting that volume. And I think he's a really versatile weapon at his size, around 6'3", 215. Might measure in a little bit lighter than that, but he's still got that wiry, streamlined frame. And I think the fluidity for his size is incredible. You look at him as a rack threat, the agility, the ability to slither through congestion. You look at the route running ability, really developed that part of his game this year. And then the late hands, the body control, the instincts as a catcher is top tier. So Odunze, I'm confident enough in the player that I think he's going to withstand his circumstances and potentially mediocre QB play early. And then when they make a QB change later down the road, he could be a big beneficiary of that.
Yeah, I love Rome Odunze too. He's been one of my favorite players in college football for quite a few years. I like that call. With the 7th pick in the first round, we are a tight end premium fantasy league here in this particular mock, and I've got to go with Brock Bowers going to the Chargers. I see this landing spot a lot. Great spot. I think that team, really stumbled this year. They need pass catchers, and I think Brock Bowers is obviously the tight end 1 for most. He is super athletic, just a fantastic junior coming out of Georgia. Everybody knows about Brock Bowers. If you play in a tight end premium league, this is probably where he's going to be coming off the board. I could see him potentially going higher. And even if it's not a tight end premium league, it looks like to me that in dynasty and fantasy football, the tight end position is coming back to life after years of nobody caring. Now, all of a sudden, you got Kincaid, you got all these guys. Sam Laporta is coming out. You just got to love Brock Bowers in his game, his physicality, his ability to win all over the field. Him going to the Chargers here, great landing spot. He's who I'm taking at the 7th pick.
Yeah, and I think that could be a bonus, right, in a tight end premium league because you look at some of the conversations that the Bills front office had about Kincaid when they drafted him around 1. Like, this guy's not just a tight end; he's kind of a weapon, right?
Right. Yeah.
1.15 personnel. I think Bowers fits the same description, right? Where you can use him on motions, you can use him as a big slot, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can use him, and that kind of expands his potential. So, love that pick. I was a little salty because I was hoping he'd fall to me with the next one, but it was kind of wishful thinking. I accept Bowers is a good player. I went with running running back Trey Benson with the 8th overall pick in this mock.
Nice.
Benson went to Green Bay. I projected Travion Henderson to return to school in this mock draft. I don't believe he's made a decision, announced a decision yet at this point. So we're kind of holding out for that. He would be my RB1 if he did declare, but Trey Benson is in that spot if Henderson does not. So Benson had a great year for Florida State. I think as a volume back, you look at the uncertainty that Green Bay has with both AJ or Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I got their names mixed up for a second.
Yeah.
But there is opportunity to take heavy volume right out of the gate. And I think around 6'1", 225, the dude has size. He's got elite contact balance, forward pressing physicality, but also very explosive, got great vertical speed between the tackles, great vision, right? He's an efficient runner who gets upfield quickly. And I think he didn't, take on a ton of volume as a pass catcher, but I think there were really great flashes of at least a functional route tree and then, catching beyond his frame as well. So I think there is some 3-down upside there too. Bottom line, there aren't a ton of running backs that I'm head over heels about. So I'm kind of taking the lead and getting my guy right here.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Like you said, if there's 2 or 3 that you like, you might want to, get them a little early. But this is certainly where I see the top running backs coming off the board in rookie drafts. With the 9th pick, I'm gonna, since it's a super flex league, Michael Penix Jr. is dangling out there. You gave him round 2 draft capital. Going to the Raiders, and it is a super flex league. So, you always want to kind of grab those quarterbacks when you can. And listen, he's having a sensational season, right? He's going to be actually playing tonight, the national championship game, which should be a lot of fun. We'll see if he can beat Michigan or not. But listen, man, you talk about a guy that can, ball placement down the field. He is exceptional at those long ball throws, and he showed some maneuverability the past few weeks that I didn't really notice that he had. It's going to be a big test against Michigan, with that pass rush and defense that they have. And if he comes out and shines against Michigan and shows that he can maneuver in the pocket and deliver that ball where he needs to and read defenses, and the NFL is just continuing to starve for quarterbacks. It's just, I've always said it, it's hard to believe that we can't find 32 people in this world that can play the game at a high level for the NFL, but it is a super flex league. And I am taking Michael Penix here, taking really the last quarterback I think that has a viable opportunity to get early playing time in their career here, going to the Raiders with the 9th pick.
Yeah, my stance on Penix has been the medicals are the biggest variable. If that checks out at the NFL Combine, I do think he is worthy of round 1 capital, and I do think he can be a very good NFL starter. I think the drive velocity, the toughness, the accuracy, like you said, it's all there.
Right.
At the 10th overall pick in this mock draft, I went with Xavier Worthy, who went to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the PFN mock. This one was a little bit of a judgment call from me, maybe a little bit higher. I know the weight is going to be a big outlier for him, around 6'1", listed at 172 or 73, might be even lighter, right? So that's something that's working against you, right? But I'm such a big fan of Xavier Worthy's game for 2 reasons. One, the game-breaking speed, right? I mean, everyone knows he's got that.
Speed.
But he's also a master at using that speed to kind of supplement his route running ability. I mean, this is not just a vertical, one speed mover. He knows how to use throttle control to manipulate defensive backs, and they are scared of that speed. They are so scared of it, right? So pressing upfield, sinking his hips, stacking transitions, manipulating space, bending through those, curve transitions too, using that curvilinear acceleration. He's one of the best route runners in the class too, on top of being an elite speed threat. And I do think there are some focus drops on his tape, but I think it's more of a focus issue than a technique issue. So I'm hoping with more repetition, he can iron that out. The ball tracking is very good in the deep third, as he's shown. So I think kind of that gravitational force with his speed, what that can do for an offense, and then how versatile he can be with that. The upside is tantalizing. And I think for that Jacksonville Jaguars offense, they need that kind of central threat, right? So I'm really hoping they can utilize him and maximize his abilities.
I like it. Jacksonville falling off here towards the end of the NFL season too. Needs another pass catcher. I like it. With the 11th pick, I'm going to go with Braden Allen going to the Minnesota Vikings. Love your landing spot there, by the way. I think they need their next ball carrier. Braden Allen, I like a lot of parts of his game. There are some parts of his game. I mean, he really put on a lot of weight in the offseason. But if there's a team out there that's looking for a bruising running back who's a one-cut runner who can get upfield, I think Braylon Allen fits the bill. And like you said, the pass catchers are so deep right now. I feel like in these rookie drafts that if there's a running back that you really like, Braylon Allen could fit the bill. He's a top 4 running back. I think maybe top 5 for me. There's another running back I'm going to pick shortly that I kind of like a little better. But given the landing landing spot, the draft capital, and the opportunity to come in and really be the primary ball carrier. Give me Braylon Allen here at the 11th pick, going to the Vikings.
Yeah, and another thing too, he's only 20 years old still. So
And everyone loves that youth. I know that.
it's
Everyone
it's
loves the
gonna be
youth.
it's gonna be a fun conversation, but he's a
Yeah,
guy
for
who I
sure.
think can be that engine right on day one. So a fun player.
Mhm.
Tight end premium. So I kind of wanted to lock down at least one tight end before the end of round one. I went with Ben Sinnott, Kansas State tight end, who went to the Cincinnati Bengals in this mock draft. This one might be a little off the wall. He produced a lot this year. I've always been a big fan of Ben Sinnott. I think, not quite as dynamic as Bowers. Obviously, no one is, but
Right.
Ben Sinnott to me is just a very sound football player. I do think he's a good functional athlete. I think he's explosive. I think he's agile, flexible. I think he's got enough speed, really good play strength, around 6'4", 245, 250. But one thing that I love about him, he's very versatile. Can play H-back, can play inline, out of the slot. Just anywhere you line him up, he can do those things. He can fulfill those roles. He's a very nuanced, varied route runner, really strong hands over the middle of the field too, and he's got some rack ability. So just a really complete tight end who I think, the Cincinnati Bengals have kind of been needing that outlet, right? They have guys on the outside. They got Jamar Chase. They're going to re-up a wide receiver at some point.
Right.
But I do think getting that outlet over the middle of the field can be a really good thing for Joe Burrow to protect him, give him that safety blanket, get the ball out quick, right? And the guy you can scheme touches to. And then he's going to see the field often because he's a great blocker. So I think Ben Sinnott, just a really solid pro, a versatile player who could have a line to early production.
Yeah, there'll be certainly production in that Cincinnati offense next year for sure. So that rounds out round one. Going into round two, I've got the first pick, and I'm going with one of my favorite receivers in the draft, Brian Thomas Jr., LSU wide receiver, going
I
to
love this
the
pick.
Buffalo Bills. All right. So Brian Thomas just showed out really well this year. I mean, he was under, probably the shadow of neighbors at LSU, but as the season went on, Brian Thomas Jr. had some amazing games and really showed. I just think he's really athletic, got solid hands. There's just not a lot to not like about his game. He is just someone I am super excited about. I've got him as my wide receiver 4 right now, and going to the Buffalo Bills and paired up with Josh Allen. Diggs isn't getting any younger, and they desperately need another pass receiver in that offense. So to me, he's my wide receiver 4 in the class. He's got, I think, all the skill set to be a day one starter and a day one contributor. Not sure he can be a wide receiver 1 on an NFL team, but I think he would be a very good wide receiver 2. Going to the Buffalo Bills sealed the deal for me. So with the first pick in the second round, going to the Bills, I selected Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, we might still be correcting on his valuation. I feel like he's a guy who's going to continue to rise through the process.
Mm-hmm.
Size, speed, route running, instincts,
Yep.
hands, just checks every box. So I think we're still kind of getting to that. With the second pick in the second round, I took Keon Coleman, Florida State wide receiver, who went to the Saints in this mock draft. I don't love the landing spot with the Saints. You got some uncertainty with Derek Carr, but I
Yeah.
do think there is room for another pass catching target on the boundary. Chris Olave is that speed splicer, right? He can kind of sear through coverage and separate, and then he can make plays with his hands. But I think getting that alpha on the boundary, Keon Coleman, Michael Thomas's kind of future is uncertain as well. Keon Coleman, 6'4", 215, really great play strength, really great alpha mentality in 50-50 situations. I think he's explosive. I think he's really strong after the catch. I think he's shown flashes of route running ability too. I still think he can kind of improve his consistency there, but he is a guy who can kind of compound agility and lateral adjustments with targeted physicality. And we've seen that very often at stems. So I'm a fan of the potential that's there. The landing spot isn't great. I'm not sure if that can, kind of accentuate his growth early on, but I have enough confidence in the player where at this value, I'm gonna roll the dice on it.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people who are going to watch this, Ian, and say, "Man, Keon Coleman, second rounder, talk about value, right?" And he's very high up there in a lot of draft analyst ranks. So with the third pick in the second round, I'm going with one of my favorite players in the draft, and I'm not going to lie, Ian, I was pretty pumped when you gave him round 3 draft capital, and that's Bucky Irving going to the Cardinals. I am a huge Bucky Irving fan. This year, I just think he, played really well. Had some, down games, some up games, but the one thing that I saw from him from his, last year that had me concerned about him, it was his toughness and physicality. Given his size, he is a smaller back in this class. But I'll tell you what, the dude fights for every yard. I think he's got shifty feet. I think he's got some decent contact balance for his size, and he catches the ball out of the backfield, which is just tremendous. I think he had like 56 or 50 plus receptions out of the backfield today. So us playing Dynasty and fantasy, right? We're looking for running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield in PPR leagues. And I'm digging the landing spot you gave him going to the Cardinals. I mean, James Conner can't play forever, but I think you'd be a great complementary piece. And again, going if they get Malik Neighbors, and now they adding another offensive piece with Bucky Irving. I think he could excel in that offense down there with the Cardinals. Love the landing spot. So I'm taking Bucky Irving here with the third pick in the second round.
Yeah, it's uncanny because at his size, right, 5'10", 195, you don't expect him to be as physical and tenacious as he is,
Mhm.
but he is. It's a really
He
fun
is.
part of his game, and I love
Yeah.
that. I love that for
Yeah.
sure. With the fourth pick in the second round, I took Troy Franklin, who went to the Carolina Panthers in this mock draft. They need a top receiver. He's a top
Mhm.
receiver, right? You're filling that void. I think that just by default is going to kind of up him on my rankings, even as sorry, the state of the offense is right now, right? I do think there's going to be volume there for him to take in a target funnel. And I do think he's a good separator. He's a very good speed threat at his size. I comp him to a peak Robbie Anderson, Robbie Chosen. I think that size speed profile matches 6'3", 180, a
Like
little
it.
bit lighter, but he can legitimately run in the high 4.3s. I mean, he's got that vertical speed, very agile, explosive, right? But also fluid on route transitions, and a really versatile player too. You can scheme him touches in a multitude of ways. The hands can be a little bit more consistent, especially against contact. But I do think the volume, the talent, those things are matching up for me. So I'm taking him here.
I like it. So you gave him round 2 draft capital, and there's 3 receivers with round 1 draft capital still on the board, and I'm going to snag one of them because this guy's one of my favorite receivers in the draft, and that's Malachi Corley. Taking him with the 5th pick, going to the San Francisco 49ers. Sign me up, man. Malachi Corley is an offering a different wide receiver than the majority of the receivers in this class. I mean, he is going to be one of these smaller players. You want to talk about, I'm a big physicality guy, Ian, when it comes to wide receivers, and this guy drips with toughness, his yak ability. I just think, and again, going to the 49ers, I love his game. I've got a couple of films on this YouTube channel of just showing his explosive plays. I just think he is going to be a quarterback's best friend. And I think it would be a great slot option for a team that's looking to get a guy the ball early in short area space and let him do his magic. Cause I'll tell you what, he's going to bring a physicality to the table when it comes to defensive backs trying to get him to the ground. Going to the 49ers was icing on the cake. So the 5th pick in the second round, I'm taking Corley going to the 49ers.
The only thing that kept me from taking him there was thinking there might be too many mouths to feed, but I think the
Mhm.
offensive fit was perfect. It kind of
Yeah.
pained me a little bit. It might come back to bite me, right? But I think
Yeah.
it's an incredible fit for sure.
Well, the fact that you gave him round 1 draft capital got me
Yeah.
really excited. I ain't gonna lie, because I love the kid.
Man, I was just thinking about it, like productive. He's gonna run really fast too, on
Oh,
top of
yeah.
being super physical, having that contact balance.
Yeah.
You check the boxes. It's very possible, right? Is it gonna happen? Don't know with this wide receiver class, so many variables,
Yeah.
but he's got what it takes, I think.
Yeah.
Number 6 pick in the second round, I took Jonathan Brooks, recently declared a couple days ago. He went to the Houston Texans in round 3 of this mock draft. I think the torn ACL is going to cause a little bit of uncertainty there,
Mhm.
but you look at the Texans offense, man. Devin Singletary played well, but he's a free agent this offseason. And then Dameon Pierce really kind of fell off with the scheme change. Don't know if he's going to catch on again. So there's potentially a void there for a running back to kind of take the lead. And I think Jonathan Brooks, right? You look at his play style. He's a slasher. He's explosive. He's got that
Yeah.
grading play strength where he can kind of pry through arm tackles. He's a good receiving back, right? I think the dynamic ability and the ability to take enough volume to kind of accelerate that growth is really there for him. Then you got CJ Stroud in that passing attack, right? That's a great yin yang for this offensive
Oh,
system. So,
absolutely.
I think there's a lot to bank on as long as he can get healthy and stay healthy.
Yeah, I love it. I was thinking of him or Bucky Irving, but that ACL injury just has me a little nervous. But I love the landing spot. I mean, the Texans just squeaked into the playoffs now. They're a team on the rise, and I love everything about that team. That's a great pick right there with the 6. I've got the 7th pick here in the second round, and I'm taking one of my favorite receivers in the draft, and that is Lad McConkey.
Yeah.
Do I like how dare you put him on the Baltimore Ravens, by the way. I'm just going to say that right out loud. But in any case, this guy, I think, could be arguably one of the best route runners in the class. I was really excited. He's a true junior who declared for the NFL draft. So that tells me that I think he got some good word from the NFL that he is going to be a respectable draft pick. You got him going in round 1, which was fantastic, going to the Ravens. I love Lad McConkey's game. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not one of the best receivers in this class. I still think he's underrated. Just, I love everything about him. And like his toughness, he's got good hands. He's got the yak ability. I think he's just one of those intelligent wide receivers that is just just understands the game, knows how to take advantage of defenses, and he's just got the footwork and the athleticism, and those things go hand in hand. And he's just a space creator, and that for me, for wide receivers, is what it's all about, creating space. And Lad McConkey, I love the kid. I'm taking him with the 7th pick in the second round.
He was another guy I circled. I really wanted to get, maybe I would have swapped him with Troy Franklin. I was really hoping. Unfortunately, I bit off more than I can chew, but he is a great player. The term I like to use is turbocharged technician, right? He's got the speed, he's got the throttle control, and he knows how to use it, right? He knows how to manipulate defensive backs and give himself optimal looks. And guess what, too? The Ravens offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, played with McConkey before he came to Baltimore. So
That's
there's
right.
that
Didn't even
familiarity
put
there.
that together. Right. I love it.
So I think, that would be a dream fit for him. So I love the potential there. With the 8th pick in the second round in this mock draft, I took Jalen Wright, another Ravens pick. The Ravens picked him, I think, at the tail end of round 3 in this one. Jalen Wright, to me, is one of those mid-round, maybe late day 2 sleepers in this class. He's got game-breaking speed, right? Once he hits the hole, he's very good at getting upfield. The vision is good, not great. There are a few times on tape where I think he could have processed a little bit quicker, right? I think he can keep improving there, but he's around, I want to say, between 205 and 210, right? So he's got enough play strength to kind of pry through arm tackles. Again, he's got really good agility, really good short area twitch, kind of that violence in his movement to kind of supplement those vertical attacks. So I think the speed is really, really compelling, especially in this Ravens offense. We saw, what Keaton Mitchell could do, when he was healthy this year, using those lanes to kind of elongate space and working alongside Lamar Jackson. There's a lot of upside there. So Jalen Wright, to me, the speed, the play strength, the toughness, and then just kind of the violence in his movement. I think there's a lot of upside there.
I think this is good. I think it's a great call, Ian, because he's not somebody I expected to even have a discussion in round 2 of rookie picks, right? And hopefully he can avoid the curse that happens to all Ravens running backs, and be successful there. I love it. It's a name that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at. It makes me go back and want to watch more film, especially the fact that you've got him here as a day 2 pick. So with the 9th pick in the second round, I'm going to go with the last remaining round 1 wide receiver you got on your board, going to the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's Xavier Legette. Interesting prospect for me. He's a 1-year production guy, right? He's a 5th-year player. Before this season, he really didn't do much of anything, but this year he really excelled. But he is that size speed combination that is so tantalizing. I mean, he's big, but I think he ran like 21 miles an hour or something. He was 22 miles an hour. He was clocked at. So that size speed combination is going to intrigue an NFL franchise to take a shot with this guy. Going to Kansas City as well, as much as I like Rashee Rice, I still don't believe he's a wide receiver 1. Xavier Legette will have plenty of opportunity because outside Rashee Rice, I still think they're looking for a pass catcher for Mahomes. So this is a landing spot and draft capital dream size speed combo. I'm going to take Legette here with this 9th pick in the second round.
Yeah, those late breakouts are always kind of interesting, right? Because sometimes they don't work out. Cedric Tillman last year was a guy that I liked a lot, and he never really caught on in his rookie year. There's still time, obviously, but it does tend to translate, in that sense. So I think what you look at for those guys, if they have that late breakout, if you're a little uncertain, do they have the route running building blocks to separate? Do they have that size speed combination? Legette has that size speed combination. And I do think there are really great flashes of footwork efficiency and stopping ability on those, those short curls, those hitches. So I think there is upside there with him. So I think there's enough to bank on in that offense. If you can catch on, it's a great look. So I think there's potential there for sure. The 10th pick in round 2 in this mock draft, I took Adonai Mitchell, Texas wide receiver. He went to the New England Patriots, joining up with Caleb Williams, getting that Williams-Mitchell stack. I like the potential that's there, gaining that chemistry early on. Mitchell, to me, is a primarily X receiver in this class. He doesn't offer the same alignment versatility that you see from other guys. a little bit concerning, especially with how variable modern offenses have become. But I do think as that X receiver, he can separate independently. He can win at the catch point. He's very physical. He's got enough flexibility to, separate and kind of offset defensive backs. And then, he's got enough speed to threaten vertically too. So I think, a very, very versatile, very, very well-rounded separator with those hands, with that speed. I think a very complete X receiver, not super versatile outside of that, but within that role, a guy who can kind of capitalize on the chances that Williams will give him.
I like it. I like it. With the 11th pick in the second round, I'm going to take Devontae Walker going to the Tennessee Titans. Do I love the landing spot? No, but I like the player. Again, he has only really played, I think, 6 or 7 games in a P5 environment in college football. So there is some concern that he is a little bit raw, but he is going to the Senior Bowl. He is headed to the NFL draft. I think he's also a 5th-year player, between JUCO and everything. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll tell you what, it was Drake May's best friend this year, and he showed that vertical prowess of being able to win vertical. Can't say that I've dug into all of his route running here, but you gave him round 2 draft capital. They desperately need pass catchers there in Tennessee. So I'm taking Walker here with the 11th pick.
The round 2 capital for me was more of a projection of what teams might do. Me personally, he's a little bit lower on my board.
Mhm.
I do think the separation framework has room to improve. The route running, from what
Sure.
I saw, there's room to expand the route tree and, the flexibility. I don't love it, but he can be a really good vertical threat. I think he can be very, very good in that phase. And Will Levis, the guy who has the arm to push the ball down the field, there is potential there. So I like that aspect of it. With the 12th pick in the second round of this mock draft, I took Audric Estime, running back out of Notre Dame. He went to the New York Giants. I didn't love investing 2 picks in the Giants offense. I can't lie. There's definitely a little bit of uncertainty there. But, again, it's just Saquon Barkley, not a long-term, he's not going to be there long term. I think his
Right.
contract is still expiring this year. So
Yep.
again, there's going to be room for volume, right? The offensive line has room to improve as well. So, the landing spot is not great, but it's another pick where I think opportunity will start to win out.
Mhm.
Situations change over years. And, they'll keep kind of chipping away at that supporting cast, improve the offensive line. Hopefully, Roma Dunze can kind of increase the multiplicity of the passing game and kind of eliminate that pressure on the running game and kind of allow Estime more space to work. Behind the line, between the tackles, I am a big fan of his game. 5'11", 227. The dude is an absolute bowling ball coming downhill. I think he's got great
Mhm.
vision and efficiency. Again, really good speed and a solid receiving threat too. I think, not super variable in that phase, but again, kind of like Trey Benson, he has proved that he can make plays beyond his frame and actually corral passes, right? Be authoritative there. So I think there's upside. I think there's volume. And at the tail end of round 2, that's enough for me to pull the trigger.
There you go. So we're heading into our third round. We're going to go through these a little quicker with the 3.01. I'm going to go with the Mika Igbukwe. You gave him round 2 draft capital going to my Philadelphia Eagles. And oh my goodness, my Philadelphia Eagles, what the hell is going on? They're falling apart here at the end of the season. But in any case, they need a third receiver. They need another option in that passing game. Mika Igbukwe, I think, would be a great slot receiver for the Eagles. I'm not sure how much great fantasy wise because they spread the ball out so much. And sometimes the Eagles, receivers can disappear a little bit, but going to my Eagles, I think he can win. If you watch his game at Ohio State, he just feasts in the middle of the field on crossing patterns and that type of thing. And I think the Eagles have the boundary receivers with the other 2 guys, but Mika Igbukwe, I think could feast in the middle of the field for the Eagles, and that's where he wins primarily. Should be interesting because I think there's a chance he could go back to Ohio State because I don't think as of this recording he has declared for the NFL draft yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. The injury this year kind of prevented him from finding
Mhm.
consistency. His 2022 tape, I was a big fan of it, right? So if he
Yep.
does declare, I think there's definitely viability for him there. With the 302, I took Jalen Polk, who went to the
Oh,
Atlanta Falcons. I love this pick, man. This is
I do
probably my
too.
favorite value pick. I love the landing spot with Jaden Daniels. I think those slot fades and those deep passes. I think Polk has the explosiveness, the late snap separation, the incredible hands to make the most of that. But I also think, you look at Puka Nakua, what was something that kind of helped him succeed this year.
Mhm.
That usage versatility, right? Sean McVay got him on day 1 and can use him any way he wanted to. Motions, different route concepts. He is,
Right.
completely multifaceted. And then the strong hands to convert at the catch point time and time again. Jalen, I'm not saying there's a 1-to-1 parallel, but I think 2 of
Sure.
those traits, that's what I think of when I hear Jalen Polk, is that usage versatility. He's so versatile, so fluid and flexible as a route runner. And then I think he might have the best hands in the class too. So I think there's a
Yeah.
really, really, really viable avenue for him to produce early on and often in this scheme.
Yeah, I think he's a versatile player too because I've got 2 or 3 films on this YouTube channel, and he showed some amazing grabs, body control and the contortion and all that. I think you're right with the strong hands. I think that's a really good point. With the pick in the third round, I'm going to go with Jalen McMillan going to the Jets. It was between him and the guy that you picked next is a player that I really like too. And I was thinking that maybe I would get the guy that you're going to pick next, maybe 2 or 3 picks down. But in any case, Jalen McMillan was banged up this year playing for Washington. We'll see what he does tonight when he plays in the national championship game. But um, I don't know. I just really like his game. I think he's a fluid route runner, not the most physical player, but I think he is underrated right now in this draft cycle because he was injured. It's like we kind of live in a what have you done for me lately world. And I think if he really, goes to the combine and does well, there's a chance that he could go back to Washington as well. But the Jets in the landing spot, they really, really need pass catchers there. And we know if Rodgers comes back and plays for 2 years, I'm going to take that route running skill set. And with the Jets possibly being the wide receiver 2 on that team next year, I'm taking Jalen McMillan here in the third
Yeah,
pick.
he's going to be a good pro. I think,
Yeah.
that's the skill set is very translatable. With the 304, I took Jacob Cowing, who was also
Yeah.
picked by the Kansas City Chiefs in this class. They doubled up with Leggett and Cowing. Cowing is definitely not the size threat, right? Definitely
Mhm.
a little underweight, but you look at the play style, again, another play style that I think is very translatable. I think he's an
Absolutely.
explosive, high energy athlete in short areas, the hyperactive twitch that he moves with, the foot speed. He's got the agility to create after the catch, but then also a spark plug as a route runner, right? He's a guy who can really easily offset DBs and capitalize with that explosiveness. And then he can rise vertically. He can make plays beyond his frame. He's got that vertical ability, that acrobatic catching ability, and the hand coordination. So I think he got a Senior Bowl invite. I'm very excited to see what he can do in one-on-ones because I think he's really going to open eyes there. And particularly in the Chiefs offense, can you separate? Can you make catches? He can do both of those things. So I'm
Yep.
hoping that will kind of accelerate his runway.
Yeah, that was a good snipe from you, my friend. I just put a video out on this YouTube channel of his Alamo game, just showing all the traits that you just talked about. So go check that out. With the 5th pick in the third round, I'm going to go with Bo Nix. It's a super flex. You give him a round 2 draft capital with the Steelers. The Steelers are, again, looking for their pass catcher. Bo Nix, can't say that I've studied a lot of his films. All I know, he's a gamer, and I like the intangibles that he brings to the table. He goes to Auburn as a freshman, as a true starter, with all the baggage of his father being there and all that pressure. Just didn't work out. Goes to Oregon for 2 years and puts on a clinic and a show. Really, just showed some good stuff on tape. I'm not a quarterback guru or I don't really watch a lot of quarterbacks and to know if they're going to translate. But in a super flex third round, we're talking about value here. A day 2, quarterback with potentially a phenomenal opportunity going to a good organization that always drafts wide receivers. I'm taking Bo Nix here with the 5th pick in the third round, going to the Steelers.
Yeah, Nix is he's very intriguing. I think the multi-layer processing ability, in the intermediate and deep range is a little bit more questionable, but within the short range, I think he's a phenomenal distributor. The accuracy, the athleticism, the off-platform ability, those are all very, very plus traits. So I think that opportunity for him could be a good one. With the 306, I took Amani Bailey, TCU running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is just a value pick for me. The Eagles kind of have some uncertainty with the running back position in the near future. They're not a team that usually spends high level capital at running back. So
Nope.
I tried to factor that a little bit less because it's not one of those heavier variables for them. But Amani Bailey, to me, kind of another one of those running backs who is very efficient working upfield. 5'8", 5'9", well over 200 pounds. So you've got that natural running leverage. You got that density. You've got some versatility as a receiver. I think he could be a value deal in this draft class, but particularly the situation for me too. There's opportunity, and that offensive line is one of the most well-coached, one of the deepest units in the league. Jalen Hurts alongside him. There's going to be opportunity. There's going to be space to use. Trying to capitalize on the value there.
I like it. I like it a lot. Who knows if Swift comes back? He was only on a 1-year deal, I believe. With the 7th pick in the third round, I'm going Cade Stover, tight end, going to San Francisco. Could this be the George Kittle replacement? Well, in the middle of the third round, I'm going to take a swing with that. Love the landing spot. Cade Stover, Ohio State finally decided to use their tight ends throughout the season. And you gave him round 4 draft capital on your mock. But love the landing spot. Is he the most athletic tight end out there? I don't believe so. But given where we are in the middle of the third round in a rookie draft in a tight end premium league going to the 49ers, I'm going to take a shot here with Cade Stover.
Nice. With the 308, I also picked the tight end Jatavian Sanders going to the Buccaneers. This one was a good value deal. I thought he's kind of a discount Brock Bowers in this class. If you talk about big slot versatility, right? I think he's got that ability to kind of be used on motions and scheme touches as a rack threat. But then he can also work up the seam. He's got great hand-eye coordination, great explosiveness, great contact balance as a rack threat. I think for the Buccaneers, it's a little bit of a give and take as a fit, right? They do have Cade Otton, but I think he's a
Right.
little bit more of a tight end too. Long term, I think getting that premier weapon, outside of him is very good. And I think you've got Mike Evans, who's, I think he's going to come back. I think they really have some loyalty there with him. Godwin is going to be expiring soon, right? But I do think in the immediate timeline, you have a player in Jatavian Sanders who can really work the middle of the field, do it well, work up the seam, and then provide some easy rack targets for Baker Mayfield, kind of hone in that volatility that has showed up for him still at times.
I like it. There's going to be perhaps a few comments on how Jatavian Sanders made it to the end of the third round on a tight end superflex. Hey, but that's what happened, right? All right. So I got to ask you, Blake Corum, round 6. How dare you? All right. He's like one of my favorite players, right?
This is now I will concede. This was probably a little too far for me. I think the age, right? Because he's going to turn 24 in his rookie season. But that
right.
is one thing that I have probably weighed a little bit too heavily in my
Okay.
evaluation of him. So I will
Oh,
concede. Probably let
okay.
him slip a little bit too far this
I'm,
time.
I'm just busting your chops here. But in any case, you gave him round 6 draft capital, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers landing spot. Rashad White, I was never a huge fan. I think he's more of he's having more success from his environment and opportunity than a real skill set. But he's been one of my favorite players in college football. I think he's got some great feet and vision. I think he's just the intangibles. I think teams are just going to love his work ethic. He's going to be a great teammate. And here at the end of the third round, I'm going to pretend I didn't see the round 6 draft capital and take him here with the ninth pick in the third round.
I finalized his grade the other day, and he graded as a fringe top 100 guy for me. So maybe early day 3, maybe late day 2. But I do think
Okay.
the age for me was the biggest variable, right?
Sure.
For running back, you
Yeah.
might only have one contract, but at the same time, you got to factor in you're gonna have a really good player for one contract, right? So
Yeah.
especially if he makes it to early day 3, that's probably a situation where if a team has an extra round 4 pick, he comes off the board pretty quickly. So
Right.
that's something I'm going to factor into future mocks. I don't think he'll fall that far again. So, but yeah, you're right to call me out on it. I do think it's a
Yeah.
little too far for
That's
him.
okay.
At the 310, I picked Jared Wiley, TCU tight end for the Seattle Seahawks. I really liked this pick, man. I think Jared Wiley is a player who still doesn't really get the necessary run that he should in this tight end class. We talk about this tight end class as it's a little bit weaker, right? And I do think that's kind of true, but I also think Jared Wiley is a big time sleeper. He really produced this year, former Texas transfer, 6'7", 260, really smooth, streamlined athlete for his size, really good working up the seam, really good red zone threat with that catch radius and that athleticism. And I do think there's some versatility with him as a receiving threat. And then you got the Seahawks, who I think Noah Fant, who's their other tight end. I'm blanking on his
Disley.
name.
Disley.
Disley, that's right. They got some expiring contracts coming up. So I do think there's going to be opportunity for them too, Jared Wiley, to be that red zone seam threat over the middle. I do think there's a lot of upside there.
I like it. I can't say that I've watched a lot of Wiley, but I think I'm going to now. All right, with the 11th pick in the third round, I'm going to go back to the quarterback. We got slim pickings here. A couple players that I'd like that I could probably take, but it's a super flex league. I'm taking Michael Pratt going. You give him round 3 draft capital going to the Denver Broncos. They are in certainly need of a quarterback if that happens. Can't say I've watched a lot of Pratt. If maybe you want to speak on what you think, I mean, is there a chance that Pratt could be a starter in
Yeah,
the league?
I'll say this: you sniped me. I was really going to take him with that 312. I had him circled. I think round 3. I think for that Sean Payton offense, right? You're looking
Mhm.
for quick decision makers, guys with anticipation, really good pocket mobility, pocket discipline as well. That was kind of the antithesis of what Russell Wilson provided. A guy who kind of goes big game hunting too often, doesn't work with what the offense gives him. I think Michael Pratt is a very good pocket operator with that accuracy and anticipation, and he's got enough baseline talent. So is he that franchise quarterback? I don't think he has quite that amount of upside, but I do think could be a solid starter for a decent stretch for the Broncos. It was
Nice.
with Sean Payton. So I think it's a good value. I think it's really great. And I was going to take him. So admittedly, I was like, oh, dang it. Like, shoot, he took
Yeah,
my guy. So I think
that's
it's a good pick.
I love your last pick because I know the guy's short, but my guy, do you want to talk about explosive playmaker? Go ahead. You got
Yeah,
the
for sure. I mean,
yes.
I think, we were talking about Malachi Corley. I don't think he's there, right? But I do think, You talk about some of the same arguments that you would use for him. Malik Washington of Virginia was an absolute target funnel. He played at
Sure
Northwestern
was.
earlier in his career, and I think that passing offense kind of diluted his skill set. But he got to Virginia, and even Virginia didn't have a great passing attack, didn't have a reliable QB, but Malik Washington was still getting targets and catches week after week. So he's shorter, but he's burly. I think he's really compact. I think he's got
Yep.
that play strength after the catch. He's a really nuanced separator, too. I think he's got good hands, and he's got enough speed and explosiveness to work in open field, and that physicality too to end runs and finish forward. To me, you look at the 3-level threat framework. Aside from his lacking size and catch radius, I think there's a lot to work with as a separator in the short range and a rack threat. And I think, again, he's going to one of the All-Star games. I can't remember if it's the Shrine or the Senior, but either one, I expect him to be a riser because he can separate and he is a physical competitor who will grade out extra yards.
Yeah, I really like him, and I'm certainly glad that you got him on the list here because he was intriguing, and no one's really talking about Malik
Yeah.
Washington. But I have 2 films on this YouTube channel. Go check him out. The dude is dynamic with the ball in his hand. I mean, he's just like you said, a consistent separator. So, Ian, I want to thank you for jumping on the YouTube channel here. I want to thank you for allowing me to use your mock draft. I think we should do this again. Appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, and it's gonna be fun. Next time we'll have settled position groups, and we'll know who was declared and who hasn't, and we'll just keep watching it as the draft board continues to evolve. But Brandon, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right, thanks guys for watching.